Hello everybody, welcome back to the Artisan of Glimmith. 671 solved, and generally I think I'm in a slightly better place for our progress through some of these. Now, you are one of those that I just don't still want to face right now. Otherwise, over here, everything's looking pretty neat and tidy. We did you through there. Got you guys, so we've got a 4 and a 4, and a 4 and a 6, a 4 and a 4 and a 5. Unless there's anything hiding around. There's a 4 down there as well, and a 3. Oh, but it's one of those. Alright, well. We looked at that, and I know that my brain is not in the place to do that. So let's come to this 4. Bricky, range 3 to 5, size separation. Okay. Range 3 to 5. So this can't be a 1. And that can't be a 1. So that's got to be at least a 3. That can't be a 1. It can't be a 2. That's got to be at least a 3. That can't be a 1. It can't be a 2. That's got to be at least a 3. That gets a line. This can't go to there. That gets a line. This can't be a 1. Can't be a 2, gets at least a 3. That blocks you in there. And with size separation, first of all, that has to be a line there. With size separation, neither of these can be the same size as this. So this has to become a 4. And then this can't be a 3. It can't be a 4. It can't go to there, so that has to go to there. As a 5, I believe. Now, hold up a second, because it could be that instead. And I think both of those would be viable. So I need to find a piece of logic that differentiates those two paths. So this can't be 3. Has to be bigger than 3. This can't be 3. Has to be bigger than 3. Then that can't go to there, so that becomes a line. One of these is not 4. But right now, I don't know which. Well, this can't be a 1. Has to be at least a 2. Can't be a 2. Has to be at least a 3. That puts a line in there. This 3 can't be next to that 3, so this becomes a 4. This 4 can't touch that 4, and that 4 can't touch that 4, so this has to be a 5. Breaking up these two 4s. From there, we know we can't have this exist, or this exist, or this exist. So that has to be at least a 4. Where do we go from here? That's a great question. Honestly, the right-hand side seems kind of big and wide enough that we could largely just deal with what we have left. Although, okay, this 4... Hold on. Hold on. Size separation. Neighboring regions must have different areas. Range 3 to 5. How on earth does this exist? It can't. It can't be a straight line. It can't be a 5. Oh no. Oh no. But we can't have this line, or this line, or this line, so we can't do something like this. So if I made a fundamental error somewhere along the way, is there ever a world where those are both 5s? Well, the other way that we were going wasn't working out, so maybe this is it. I don't know how I was going to get to here through the previous logic, but I'll take the progress I've got. That has to be at least a 3, that has to be at least a 2, that has to be at least a 2. Well, it has to be at least a 3, but it has to make up that space. So this can't be a 2. It can't be a 3 because it's touching this. And it can't be that 4 leaving a 1. So I think that has to be that 4. This can't be a 4 or a 5, so that has to be a 3. And then we just have to colour in what's left. So this can't be a 5. I think I see the line. I think that's a 4 and that's a 5. There it is. Okay. Bricky, range 4 to 5, size separation. You to there, you to there. And then what? Is a great question. The previous puzzle felt like it gave us loads at the beginning, and this does not feel like it's giving me loads. So size separation, okay, well, size separation with ranges 4 to 5 is going to do a lot to be pretty narrow. Part of my brain just wants to see, and like I know this is not logic, I just want to see. If we go 4, 5, 4, and then how would I 5, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4. Okay. That was just pure instinct, but I'll take it. I don't know how you were getting there with logic, but it just looked too clean at the top, and then the rest just kind of worked out. So I'm not going to beat myself up about it. You're the next one up there. How many more do we need? 6. 6 sounds like a lot. Is there anything hiding under there? No, just the dapples of the other windows. Nothing down there? No. Feels like there's a lot of missed opportunities for things to hide, but it is what it is. Precision 3 bricky. Okay. Where is our inn? It's a fantastic question. Well, that can't exist, so that starts. That can't exist, that starts. That can't exist, that starts. It's not a bad start. Now, that has to be a line because they have to be precision 3. What we do with that, we're going to find out as I readjust my headphones a second. Okay. If this were a line, that would have to exist. But I don't know if that's really anything. This guy here can either be this, this, or this, which means that that is a different color. But that doesn't really help, does it? I'm just trying to see where any kind of rule is directly in place for me. Because, like, if this had a top, like, if that had a top, then we can't do that and we start building outwards. But I can't see why it has to be that way instead of any other way. Because, like, it could be that and we start building outwards, you know? Like, if that does that, that can do that, but it could easily be that instead. I'm just not seeing where something definite is. Like, we know this, this, and this have to be other colors to these because of the lines and the two sides of the lines that they're on. doesn't really feel like it does much for me either. But I can't see the next logical step to say, oh yeah, this must be this way. Oh, I can see it. Okay, ignore these for a second. What I was very obviously not seeing, or not noticing immediately, is that line can't exist. So that must be our trio, and that lets us start building in some other stuff. So that must exist. What next? That can't exist, so that goes down. Then what's next? Great question. This must be a different color to both this. This must be different than this and this, because if this came out to here and this came out to here, they can't both do that, and neither of them can reach this. So the point that I was getting to with that is that if this and this were to exist, we can't have this and we can't have this, which would leave us with that. But I'm not sure if it can't be some version of that instead. But I was just looking at the potential cross that might exist in a moment on that line. Similar to this here, but maybe I'm just missing something obvious again. Well, this, and this have to be the same color, because this needs a third, and we don't know if it's going to go that way or that way, but they must exist, and that must be a line. And if we have rules of regions being exactly 3, that presents a problem to me. Because how then do I make this region work? Hold on. How did I mess that up? It's not that far to go back. So we had this, this, and this. That line must exist. That line can't exist, which gives us that. That gets a box around it, which gives us this line can't exist, which gives us that, and that line can't exist, which gives us this. So this can't reach down to here. This can't reach up to there. Oh, I think I see it. If this and this don't have to be the same color, it can be that way round. That's what I missed. Cool. That gives us some stuff to work with. That line can't exist, so that must be a 3 there. That's got to come down. That comes down and makes a 3. That's got to come down and out and across. That's got to be together, and it can't be that, leaving that alone. So that's this, which puts that together, which puts this to here, and we don't know exactly where that's going yet. Sight reading this, it looks like it's going to be... No, not that, okay. Don't sight read things. That's not how logic works. So these can't be different colors. And that can't be a different color. How do we finish this out? How do we finish this out? We must be able to use these corners. There it is. Cool. Bricky Precision 4. Right. I see that for a start. Past that, though? Uncertain. This can't exist, but there's all kind of ways that other stuff can exist there. Bricky Precision 4. This can be this. Okay, it can't be that because that produces this. So it must be this. And same here. We can't have that and that. So that goes up to there. Then that's going to be 1, 2, 3. That's going to be 1, 2, 3. Is this whole thing actually symmetrical? No, this line here makes it not symmetrical, which means there has to be a unique solution. Also, this spacing here might not be symmetrical. I'm uncertain. Right, this can't go to here because it would do that. Therefore, that goes to there. This can't go to there because that would do that. So that goes to there. I feel like we're going to be doing this mini thought process quite a lot. Although now I don't have a dead end to serve as my in for the next piece to lay, except we do. We can't do, excuse you, we can't do this, so that must exist. We can't do that, so those exist, and the same is true here. What's going to be the one that we introduced to stop a cross forming? Unsure. Okay, it can't be that end. So it could be this or this, I think, but it can't be that, so we can cap that off. And that's true. Wait, is that true here as well? We said it can't go to there. Wait. What did my brain just process? Right. It can't join that one. It can't join that one. Okay, so that puts that at being a line. And that at being a line. We don't know where the rest of this goes yet, except now we get some more clues because that can't exist. So that has to go to there. That has to go to there. I'm waiting for this symmetry to bifurcate. But that means this must exist and this must exist. It also must mean that that must exist and that must exist. And here is where bifurcation begins to set in. What's our next guaranteed thing? Well, that must come out to there. That must come out to there. The color palette on this one, like the default, is not very varied, is it? Well, it can't be this, because that would put those in play. But that doesn't seem like much of a step of progress. Had to jump away, my grocery delivery arrived. Okay, I see a fresh bit of logic here. So this piece here can't... No, Maybe not. I was thinking that it can't do this because that makes a cross. But we could do that and some version of that, or if it does this, it gets some other piece, but there's no actual line that has to be followed there. There's two options for lines, I think. Right, what can we see? What do your elf eyes see, Legolas? Okay, this has to be a different colour to this. Just because it can't stretch out that far. Oh, here we go. That can't be a line. And that can't be a line. How did I miss those? I don't know. But that gives us a lot to work with here. So that has to go up, that has to go up, that has to go up, that has to go up. Boxes. Oh, wait. We're regions of 4, not regions of 3. Okay, yeah, that is that means we could hypothetically do that, which is something, but again, not a must exist, I think. So obviously we know that has to come out to here, but that's kind of a much more generic focus than this. This could also be that. Excuse you. I'm on Z not. That could be that as well. So that does not actually give me as much stuff as I was hoping it was going to. Although, okay, putting that in place there means that this can't exist with that. Oh, but it doesn't mean that that has... okay, that cross can't exist, and neither can that one. So that might differentiate a bit more as to what exists here and what doesn't. Where's the line? Because, like, that seems nice and clean, but being clean does not a logical answer make. I just know that this tile must match that one, and this tile must match this one, and these must bridge those gaps. But outside of that, there's still a lot of wiggle room, because this could be this, and that, and that, and that, which all still is valid. Where's the next thing that says you can't exist there like that? And obviously this is going to be different than this is down the line. These two can either go 3-4, 3-4-4, or 3-4. That does not help me. Okay. Well, we do also know that these lines can't exist, so something here is going to have to join up. But we don't know if it's this and this, or this and this. Just that something is bonding here. Oh. Show me the logic, game. Why did I hypothesize that this had to be a different color? Was I still thinking about 3s? When, in fact, that can be a 4, and that does not have to be a different color at all. Precision 4. 4, 4, 4, 4. Like, if this was me 2 weeks ago, I would have colored these in and then tried 3 different ways of filling out all the top corner until I hit a wall, rather than stopping at this juncture to try and find the logic. Because at least in doing that, right, if I suddenly go off and go, all right, well, now we know that this needs to exist, and that needs to exist, and that would need to exist, and that can't get to there. In doing that, my brain feels like it's making progress, even if it's definitely flawed progress. I feel like I'm doing something rather than staring and anticipating the epiphany. That can't come to there without that doing that, but that doesn't help me either. This could still do this. Where is a cross that has to be a cross? Okay, okay. I see a line. This can't exist. Because if this exists, that becomes a problem. So that means this line has to exist. And the same is true of this piece. So this line has to exist. Great. That doesn't mean let's do that then. That doesn't mean that this isn't this yet. But this does have to come out to somewhere. As does this. If this is not a square, then this would have to do this. That would have to do that. 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 But there's no part of this that screams grossly invalid. That would have to do that. Okay, hold on. This can't do that, because that would have to do that and make a cross. That can't do that and have that exist unless it's this. Let me just clear that and that and that and that and that and that and count this area. 28 does divide by 4. Which makes me think that if that were to do this and that were to do that, this gets to 26, which does not divide by 4, which therefore means, I believe, that that has to be a square in the corner. Because now on this side of the square I have 28, and on this side of the square I have 28 as well. So, counting became very valuable in a way that I admit I kind of had forgotten that counting could be. So that now has to exist, that has to exist, but they don't necessarily have to be a line of 4. But we basically now have 2 wholly separate puzzles on the 2 halves. So that has to exist. That has to exist. And we just have to find out where we cannot make corners join together. Okay, previously we just discussed this can't do that because it makes this... Oh, screw you. It makes that line. So I think this has to be one big group. Which would then force that to exist. That to exist. Okay, we got that bottom half. Nice. Top half then is going to be different to this, so presumably not that. But I can't remember how we started the bottom edge. Oh, I decided that this had to be... That couldn't exist down there because of the line that existed here, so that can't exist that way either. So that can exist that way, and I just have a sneaking suspicion that it's going to work out that we can do things this way. Yep. Good. All right, so that leaves us with 5, 4, 6, 3. What was this for? Oh, we might be able to bang this one out real fast. All regions must be one of these. Bricky. Neighboring shapes must have different... Neighboring regions must have different shapes. Area number. So 3, 3, 3, 3. I think I've seen this puzzle at all. Then neighboring regions must have different shapes. But our neighboring regions can only be these lines. But we can't make any crosses. That's going to make things very, very interesting. It is a difficulty 4, so don't expect to race to the answer. So where's the logic going to be? Well, none of this. No, it could be 3s that are... Oh no, yeah, it can't be 3s that are hooked because that. So it eliminates 3 from existing as a line of 3 anywhere else in the level. So what else does that mean? A great question. This could be a 1. If it were a 1, then that would be a 2 or a 4, and none of that really helps me be definitive. Neighboring regions must have different shapes. This can't exist, so... Now I am just going on vibes again. Because I don't see where my in is. Like, this can't exist. So, these can't be 1s. which means one of these has to be a 2. I'm just uncertain about which way round it's going to go. Okay, but whichever way it goes, it means that that can't exist as a line. And that then can't exist as a line as well. Which, I mean, I think means that that has to do that. Except it can't. How do we do this? This can't exist. This is not going to work. Because I can't put a 3 in any of this. Can't do that. I don't know where my in is. Feels like this top left corner does something. I'm just not certain what. This can't be a pair of 1s. So one of these has to be a 2. And then whatever this is has to be the same piece as this, because otherwise we end up with a corner. So I think that means that there's going to be a 2 and a 4. But it can't go that way, so it has to go this way. I think that is true and correct. I hope it is, because that seems to be the only line that I've gotten so far. So this is either a 1 and a 4 or a 1 and a 2. If this is a 1, these can't be different. We could do 4. We can't do 4 there. Okay. The shape bank and mingle. So which one of these two sides do we now run off through? This can't be a 1. No, it could. It could. Hypothetically, it doesn't really work out that way, but the way I was picturing it not being a 1, because then this would make a cross, but we could do something across that way. Although that looks really pretty as something with potential, but I can't do a 4 there. Right, let's just think about this for a second. This can't be a 4. Can't be 3s. So this has to be a 1 or a 2. If it's a 2, this has to be a 1, and this has to be something else, and that makes a cross. If this is a 1 and a 4, then we could do another 1 and a 4, or we could do a 1, a 2, and a 4. A 2, a 1, and a 1? No. No, no, no. Whatever ends up offset from... Okay, hold on. When we colour this in, whether it's a 4 here or a 4 there, we end up with these lines that can't exist. And it can't be a 3, and it can't be a 4 next to a 4. So I think that means that... Does that have to exist? Weirdly. And by weirdly, I mean per the logic. Which means that can't be a 2, so that's a 1. That can't be a 3. That could go that way. I think it would have to, because we can't do that way. Nice. Lovely. Okay, so I was just recapping about what remains. So it's... We need 3 more. There's the 5 and the 6. There's a delta there. And this guy with the shape my brain can't combobulate. And another delta up here. So 2 delta... Oh, what's that done there? I didn't even see you. All right, we got options for getting to, hopefully, a finished window next time. For now, thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.